on today? Welcome back to Mic'd Up. I have my two relatives. My first cousin, Sherman Jackson, the Gonzales Chief of Police. He has made history, the first black Chief of Police of Gonzales, Louisiana. And I also have my cousin, he's a successful lawyer, Travis Turner. They say turn to Turner when you need some help. You can reach him at 225-644-2229. All right, today we're going to kind of piggyback off what we've been speaking on, the emotions of a man. But we're going to kind of divvy off of exactly how does that, with upbringing and how you're raised and how does that, connects with the crimes that's being committed and different things of that nature. So we're going to turn to Chief Jackson. And what's your opinion on it so far as, emotionally and, whether you have two parents in the home or one parent in the home, how does that affect your upbringing? How does that affect, kids of these days emotionally?
Yes. So, well, first of all, thank you for having me, Mike. I appreciate it. I'm proud of you. I remember you said you wanted to do something positive for the community after the things that we all witnessed on TV. So I commend you on your efforts to making our community better. Anyways, so when we talk about emotions, it's to me it's a big subject, and there are many parts of the pie when you try to talk about emotions, and then the way you feel, you take your emotions and carry out an action, right? So I can tell you, I do know and I recognize, what emotions could cause for a man if he don't know how to handle his emotions. So being at a young age, I think when you're raised, the first thing you're looking for is food and water and shelter, right? Your safety and all of that. Now, in that time, you're going to be taught about your actions and your emotions and the consequences behind your actions, right? So, and I think at this day and time, when we grew up, things was a lot more slower. Most of us had, parents in the home, but now things have, it's sped to 100 miles per hour now. And so my first year, 4 years in office, I recognized that. And what I've done, I put a plan together and a mentorship for kids from the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And that was designed to mentor them on how to handle certain situations. Because, as us as people, we all know the different type of personalities out there. We know, what could generate a bully and what could generate a leader, right? So some kids, they're trouble, but a lot of kids look up to them. So we focus on that child and we try to turn that energy, because they got the leadership skills, right? And they're going to have followers, right? So we focus energy on that person to make good decisions, have, other kids follow him with those decisions and understand he's powerful once he becomes that leader. So, a lot of times kids that don't know how to react off of their emotions, somebody may say something to upset them, somebody may do something to upset them, and they're going to react a certain type of way, right? So if we teach them, how to calm down, let some time pass, then you can make a good decision on to the approach whatever problem you have. Even as a chief, I have to do that. Right. I never make a decision when I'm upset. Right. I always allow myself to calm down, put things into perspective, and then I'll figure out how I'm going to approach that thing. So, in regards to law enforcement and emotions, yeah, we do see it a lot. We do understand that people, an emotion may trigger some type of violence. But we try to deter that at an early age. Right. So that's how we go about it in law enforcement.
Okay. So what about Travis, from your perspective? I know it's kind of a little different. I mean, it's in law enforcement, but you as a lawyer, how do you see it from your standpoint?
Well, on my side of the spectrum, usually once they come to me, they've already got in trouble.
Right.
Either caught selling drugs or some type of violent crime has already occurred. And usually you see that as coming from a single parent home, either the grandmother's raising the child and parents aren't involved. And you can see the child is kind of raising themselves, or the parent or who's ever caring for that child doesn't have any control over it. So the child's pretty much doing what they want, staying out as late as they want, disrespecting the parent or whoever's caring for them. And you can just see where there's a disconnect between authority and what they're supposed to be doing as a young adult, 18, 19, 20. They're not really caring for themselves. Mm-hmm. Because they're coming in there, they need a lawyer. They didn't cause all the trouble. But at that point now, they got their mama in there, or grandmother in there, paying us to represent them. But you're the one causing all the trouble and don't want to listen to anybody.
Right.
So, in those situations, I think there needs to be some type of mechanism in place to try to, like the chief was saying, catch them at an early age to stop them from getting to that point. Because a lot of times once they come to me, some of them is too late.
Right.
They're not going to turn around. Even if they get out of trouble this first time, they're going to be right back.
Right.
Because they just feel they can do what they want. They don't have to respect authority, police, teachers, anybody. So they just want to basically do what they want to do when they want to do it. And then you have some that come in there. Now, they might come from an even worse situation than that, where they pretty much have no parental guidance or no guardians, and they've been raising themselves from a young age. And to feed themselves or take care of themselves, they start selling drugs. Someone like that, and they do it out of necessity to get the things they want to have. And those are hard to reach as well, because a lot of times they didn't focus on school. So the only thing they have back to fall on is what they know, who they've been hanging with, the same drugs, sell drugs, they get to use money, or rob and get the money. So that's another one you have to try to identify them at an early age and try to put them in a better situation or give them better role models than somebody that's already living that lifestyle for the selling drugs and things of that nature.
Gotcha. Well, I'm going to ask both of y'all. I mean, you can. I think I want to answer it, Sean first, or you, Travis. But how does that affect, a kid coming up? You think, say for instance, that you do have both parents, because a lot of times that's, like you said, both of y'all saying that's the case, that might be a one-parent home or being raised by their mother. But if you do have both the parents, but then you have a child that's so quote-unquote spoiled. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, because a lot of times I see those type go the wrong way also when they get older. Because when they do get on their own, they can't fend for themselves, or they see something else they may want to do, and it's opposite of what they were being taught. So, I mean, how do you look at that?
Yeah, so look, human nature is something that you and I, if we could figure out, we'll be rich.
Right.
I do realize that there are kids in a home where, both mother and father are present, but somewhere along the way, they lose their way.
Right.
But I can guarantee you that percentage is small. Right. And if they have a foundation, a good foundation in the home, even if they veer, they're able to come back.
Right.
You may have to go through something in order for you to see that this is not the right direction. You may have some epiphany, whatever it may be, but you got a foundation. You can always come back. All right. So, but that percentage is minor compared to the environment where, if you don't go to school, if you're not smart enough, then the only other option is to go sell drugs. And listen, every day, just about every day, there's a murder in Baton Rouge. And those kids, we're talking about kids at 12 and 13 years old hitting the street. Really? Right? And by the time they become 16, 17, they're capable of taking one's life, right? How do you change that? All right. And look, I've been doing this for 27 years in law enforcement. And 20 years ago, I said, Baton Rouge lost its way. The police lost their way. They wasn't putting enough back into the community to help 20 years ago. All right. So now, 20 years later, it's worse. It's out of hand. All right. And we can have as many civil rights activists. We can have all kind of activists that preach no violence. But guess what? That's not going to solve the problem. All right. So I think at some point we, as Black people, going to have to come on one accord and say, look, it's us against you. All right. We don't want this in our community. You out there killing and robbing and pillaging. The next victim may be my son or my grandson. All right. And enough is enough. All right. So at some point, it's going to take a joint effort, or a true joint effort. All right. And I don't care if you got to get every church involved, every leader involved. We as a people, it has to stop. All right. It's not, this situation isn't new. Mikey, I'm going to tell you, California went through this back in the 70s and 80s. Okay. Here in 2000, it's here now. All right. So, and there's no real cure if we're going to follow or try to look at the model that California went by, or one of those big states went by. Those prime efforts are still there today. All right. Some of it is territorial, some of it is drug related, and some of it is just kids that don't have nothing to live for. All right. So we have to find out a way to reach those kids and change their lives so they have something to fall back on besides the penitentiary or death.
Well, I mean, do you think, so is it, do you fault like say for instance, like myself, okay, people that kind of went through life a little bit, but so if I see somebody, and I see that may be a troubled kid, is it my responsibility, you think, to just go have a conversation with him or see where he's at?
Absolutely. Back when you and I came up, they would say it takes a village to raise a child. So it hasn't changed. A lot of the people have changed, but that mechanism is still there. All right, and I would think if you know of a struggling child, and you say, and your kid is a good kid, all right, and could be a role model to this child, all right, and you teach that child love. Yeah, love is the most important thing in the world, all right, because if you learn to love, then there's no way you go out and just take somebody's life, right, or do something tragic to them and their families, all right. So I think if we all show love to these kids, yeah, I think it's your duty as a citizen, as a Christian, to try to help that child out. Absolutely right.
The part of the problem is they glorify it. If we oppose a lot of stuff they do now, that nobody wants to speak on it. They just let them get away with it, glorify it, say it's okay, it's all right, nothing to do with it. And that's part of the problem.
I agree. And I look at it, sometimes I look at it in the perspective of, you got, you see some of these older guys, and I kind of just shake my head, and it may be small in what I'm saying, but I don't like, I know it's something that you preach on, You know, and I know it's something that you see all the time. Like just some of the guys that wear their pants falling out. That's just an example. You know, and I know people don't realize. You know, you say, man, you're not supposed to judge anybody. You can't look at somebody too. But that's the way society is. I mean, what they see and what you do, that's how they're gonna judge your character. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, I mean, it is not, I don't think it's right, but your first reaction or first thing that you may do or the first thing that people see you do, that's what you're going to be remembered by some people. Not me, I'm forgiving. I don't, you know what I'm saying? I believe in change. And that's the whole purpose of this podcast, to create change. But you know how some people put their stigma on you. Once something happens or you do something, that's it. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah.
In certain people's eyesight.
Right. And look, you know, organizations that's out there, like I belong to an organization called the Born Brothers. And we base ourselves upon a call, CALL. It's character, accountability, leadership, and love. So those four things by itself, if we teach the younger generation those four things, it takes them a long way in this world. All right, and you know, we mentor a little boy. We call him Shaq. He's probably in the 6th grade now, but he's bigger than the rest of the kids.
Right.
And one day he see me, he say, "Chief," he said, "I'm gonna be the police." I said, "Oh yeah?" I said, "That's good, Shaq." I said, "Do your homework, do you study, and make good grades, you become police." He said, "Nah, you don't understand." He said, "I'm gonna be the next you." I said, "Really?" I said, "You're gonna be a chief of police?" "Yes, sir, I'm gonna be the chief of police." I said, "All right." I said, "I'm gonna take mental note of that." So I introduced him to Carl. Right. And I said, "Shaq, you know what character is?" I said, you know what accountability and love and leadership is." And he was able to articulate each one of those things to me in the 5th grade. Okay.
Right.
So it's very possible. And these kids, they catch on. All right. And they're smart. Now, Shaq have good days and bad days. And when he have a bad day, the school called me. And guess what? Me and one of my captains, or lieutenant, we go down there and ride to the school. And we go sit down and talk to Shaq, all right, and ask him, what's the problem? Where did we go wrong? How can we make things better? You realize your mistake, all right? Don't let this happen again. But that's what it takes, all right, for me to stop what I'm doing and go to that child and say, let's do this.
That's big. That's big. I didn't even know you did that. You know what I'm saying? That's my first time hearing anything called.
Yeah.
So that's something everybody that's listening, we got that in chief police and started something great. Yeah. And that's something for me. You like my brother. This is my first time hearing that. But you know, what I want to ask you, Travis, like when you see these different people that come to you for help, and you say normally it's too late, is it anything that you can kind of push them toward to maybe get help, whether it's drugs or, you know what I'm saying, or, you know, help that you may see they can go into, and so far as, you know, from what the problems they coming in for?
Oh, definitely. If somebody that comes in there and they just have a problem using drugs, you know, rehab, getting a GED if they don't have, trying to get them back in school, just doing something else besides just sitting home all day, popping pills and smoking weed. So those are some of the ones that can be saved or put back on the right track. I'm not going to say everybody that comes in there can't be saved. You know, a lot can. Especially a lot of the younger ones, if they're just coming in there for that, you know, selling weed, smoking weed, have some pills on them, or things of that nature. You just have to get them off those drugs. Make sure they don't have to use those drugs. And get them a job, have them some type of community service, and just doing other things to take up their time instead of just sitting around the house. But that comes also with the parents or the guardians pushing them to get out of the house, do something productive with themselves, and not just taking care of them. You know, 20 years old, no job, being in school, sitting around the house smoking weed all day. You know, that comes because, you know, as a parent or a guardian, you allow them to sit around the house and do that.
Yeah.
forcing him or her to become a man or become a young adult. You got to push them to make them become an adult. You can't baby them throughout their whole 20s and expect them to become productive. And kind of like the Chiefs, we got the basketball program that we over, and you can see some of those kids that we have come from those single parent homes, and you can see some of those anger issues or just some different background aspects that you have to try to fix as they come up through the program. Because you can tell, for the most part, you can tell the kids that's coming from single parents or no parents compared to the kids on the team with the two parents. It's just a support that the two-parent household has versus the other one. Because a lot of times those are kids we have to pick up, bring to the game, bring to practice, we go out of town and travel. They're going with the coaches, but usually when you have the two-parent households, those parents bring them to the game, bring them to the practice, bring them out of town when we play. So they always have support there. Right. But a lot of those ones that's not coming from that background don't have that type of support. And, you have to be able to provide the support so they won't go down it,
right.
Path.
Right. And it's funny that you say that, because a guy that I know, he told me about, his past. Matter of fact, it was yesterday that I played ball with, he was like, man, and I never looked at it from that perspective, because, we all three of us, we had our parents, and, you had grandma treated you like, you know what I'm saying, and you had both your parents, and he was saying, like, man, it's almost like the reason why I used to do a lot of stuff for some of these kids do things, or even some of the adults, because they get glorified. Like, they seem like, he said that's the only way they get attention. If I kill somebody, I got stripes. I'm excited. Like sometimes, like, say for instance, with us, man, you got good grades, or like you graduated, got your law degree, your parents excited. But he get this fan base, or the people outside, like, whatever, tough, he hard, but boy, he could kill somebody. He said that was the only way he felt like he was somebody. In order, what I'm saying, the things that he done was because of, it made him feel like somebody. Nobody didn't recognize him before. You kind of understand what I'm saying? I'm like, man, wow. So I never kind of looked at it from that perspective. So, like, basically, if you go out there, I get stripes for murdering somebody or doing some kind of big time drug deal or whatever the case may be. Man, boy, old boy, what's his name? Whatever, Lil Joe, man, he's top notch, bro. He one of the top drug lords in the world, bro. You know what I'm saying? That's what he used to get off of, because that was the only, excitement that he had. He didn't have his parents to, to give, to tell him, man, you did a great job for this or for that. All he knew was that, you know what I'm saying? And I never looked at it from that perspective, because he was like, man, that made me feel like I was doing something, until I lost that fan base when I went to prison. Don't nobody know me now.
Right.
Yeah, I forgot about it. Next man up, whoever out there doing whatever they're doing now, they praising him. So, but I never, when he explained it to me, I was like, wow, bro. But he was like, bro, and he said, man, if I can find some kind of way to tell people, let them know, you know what I'm saying, that's something that I want to do, because I was talking to him about my podcast and everything, but, that's just kind of an idea that he gave me yesterday, and I was like, wow, man, but he was always fight for just somebody to just, man, you're doing a good job, or whatever the case may be. But the only time he got there is when he did something extravagant that was bad.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I think that has its place in the world. Of course, you and I would probably never understand it.
Right.
But in order for that type of activity or behavior to go on, it's real in certain aspects. But you spoke of us coming up and had a stable home, and I can guarantee everyone that's sitting in this room was in church on Sunday morning. Of course, yeah, and Bible school and Bible
you
study.
better be.
And
yeah, no choice.
What do you call it? In the summertime, the
summer camp. Vacation Bible school.
Yeah. So, people can say what they want. It starts there. It starts in the home, and you've been putting that foundation in you. All right, and everything after that, you can always revert back to that foundation. If you got a good foundation, I think you got a chance in this world.
Right. I definitely agree. Because I guess, man, and he got kind of emotional as he was kind of telling me, like, man, like, brother, you don't realize, man, because he lives out in, he's from New Orleans, and he was like, man, you don't realize, like, that made me feel like I was on top of the world.
Yeah.
And it was like, just like, where people get all kind of different praises for doing well in school. He said, but that's how it was. It's like almost and that's why he couldn't get away from certain things. He said, it's almost like a high. Like, man, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm the man or whatever, doing whatever you're doing out there. And once he explained it to me like that, I was like, wow, I understood. So, I mean, but, I'm not making any excuse for anybody, but I just feel sometimes, though, too, you can use bad experiences or bad things that you may see for inspiration also. Sometimes I think it's a choice that you can make also. But like you said, it has a lot to do with your upbringing and things of that nature too, and what you're used to and what you're used to seeing. But I guess it's just a dig of a lot of things, So, you can't put it on one thing.
Right. So life in general is no easy task.
No.
And look, we all fail before. And probably gonna fall some more before we either.
Ain't no doubt.
But you got to have the will to get back up and try to get back right and make things go for the next day.
Because I was looking at, even with myself, mom and dad always talk about it. My brother, as he was coming up, he matured a lot quicker than I did. You know what I'm saying? But I guess my parents kind of looked at it because I was the youngest. And, sometimes the youngest have the tendency to kind of get a little bit more their way and things of that nature. But, you know what I'm saying? But I look at it, too, from experiences. I learned from my brother, too. He helped me along the way. Showed me a lot of things, whether it was basketball or whether it was just life in general. You also. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you realize I paid attention to a lot of stuff that you used to do coming up. Even when, when you was in the military. I thought about that for a very long time. But, that's another thing, too. A lot of people, whoever listening to the podcast, a lot of people, you got to realize you never know who's looking. You never know who's looking. So you got to pay attention to your actions, how you're moving, what you're doing. It's very, very important. Because you don't know what somebody's going through, and if they see you, especially as being the chief of police, doing whatever, man, whatever the case may be, you don't know who's following you. Right? So I think that's very important. But man, I think this is a real good podcast today. What we spoke on. I appreciate y'all coming today. It was very, very informative. I think we got a lot out about what we talked about. And I appreciate y'all again taking y'all time off from y'all family today and come and speak on this subject now. But we want to close out on this. I want y'all to hit the subscribe button, hit the likes, leave comments. If y'all have any topics y'all want to feel we need to talk about, leave it in the comment section. I'll holler back at y'all. Peace.